Hey there. So, one of the questions people ask me about early retirement is, what do you actually do all day? And I think behind that question is a bigger fear. It's not really just what's your schedule. It's more like, if I retire, am I going to be bored? Am I going to feel useless? Am I going to wake up one day and regret retiring early? And I get why people worry about that because work gives your life structure for decades. It tells you when to wake up, where to be, what problems to solve, who needs you, and what your days are supposed to look like. Then suddenly, when you retire, all of that disappears. So, in this video, I want to answer the question honestly. What do I actually do all day now in my early retirement? But I don't want this to be just a video about my schedule because honestly, copying my day probably would not make sense for you. What I really want to talk about as well with you is what retirement actually feels like when work is no longer organizing your life. So you not only learn about what I do in retirement, but also what the benefits of retirement are too, what I've learned and truly enjoy about it. And I just want to say this one right up front. I retired in December of 2024, and I have not been bored for one day, not one. And that may surprise a lot of folks because I think one of the biggest misconceptions about retirement is that once you stop working, you just sit around, watch TV, and wait for something interesting to happen. But for me, it's been just the opposite. Honestly, I actually watched more TV when I was working because by the end of the day, I was tired, stressed, mentally drained, and I didn't have much energy for anything else. Now I have a lot more energy. I sleep better. I have less stress. I move more. I create more. I travel more. I spend more time on things I actually care about. So, no, I'm not bored. But I also don't think that when you retire, you won't be bored because here's the thing: retirement gives you time, but it does not automatically give you a meaningful life. You still have to build that part. And that's really the key. If someone retires and it starts to feel boring, I don't think it's usually because retirement itself is boring. I think it may be because that person retired but didn't really plan for or think about what their retirement would look like and how they would fill their days. And that's the part I think people need to think about long before their last day of work, because when work goes away, something has to fill that space. For me, my days have a lot of freedom, but they also have a rhythm. I usually wake up around 8 o'clock, sometimes a little earlier, sometimes later. It really just depends on how late I stayed up the night before. And one of the best parts of retirement is that I never use an alarm anymore. I simply wake up when my body is ready to. That may sound like a small thing, but after decades of working, not waking up to an alarm feels like a luxury I never get tired of. The last time I remember using an alarm was when we had to catch an early morning flight to New York City for a fun getaway we did in April. Other than something like that, I never set an alarm. My morning starts slowly. I make coffee. While the coffee's brewing, I play a puzzle game on my iPad that I've been playing for over a year and never get bored with it. It's one of those matching puzzle games on Apple Arcade. Then I drink my coffee quite leisurely and watch YouTube videos. A lot of them are retirement videos from other creators because I like seeing what other people are talking about. But lately, I've also been watching a lot of travel videos because my wife and I are celebrating our 25th anniversary this year with a trip to Europe. We'll be going to Athens, taking a Mediterranean cruise, visiting Corfu, Montenegro, Sicily, the Naples area, and Barcelona. So now instead of rushing through the morning and already thinking about work stress, I can sit with my coffee and watch videos about places we're actually going to visit. That is such a simple pleasure. And honestly, I think the simple pleasures are some of the best parts of retirement. Not setting an alarm clock, not having those Sunday night blues, going grocery shopping on a Wednesday when the store is quiet, taking my time in the morning and not being in any hurry, going on a bike ride whenever I want during the day, not having to cram every errand, chore, project, and fun activity into a weekend. When I was working, weekends had so much pressure attached to them. You had to rest, catch up, run errands, do house projects, maybe see people, maybe do something fun. And then suddenly it was Sunday night and the feeling would start creeping in. Here we go again, another stressful work week. I do not miss that feeling at all. Now Mondays are just another day. And that may not sound dramatic, but if you spent years dreading Monday morning, not dreading it anymore is a very big deal. After my slow morning, I usually do some gardening before it gets too hot as I live in Texas. Gardening has become a much bigger part of my life in retirement. It's so therapeutic. I gardened some when I was working, but now I'd say I'm probably doing around triple the gardening I used to do. And I think part of that goes back to growing up on a dairy farm in Southwest Wisconsin. We had a huge garden when I was a kid. We grew a lot of our own food. I remember weeding and digging up potatoes at harvest time. And it was a lot of work, but I think something about that stuck with me. I just enjoy watching things grow. I enjoy tending to plants. I enjoy seeing the results of something I cared for. And retirement gives me the time to do more of that. After gardening, I'll usually check my YouTube channel, answer comments, look at podcast or Patreon activity, and spend some time working on my content for my YouTube video and podcast. That has become a big part of my retirement too. I probably spend 7 to 10 hours a week on YouTube, the podcast, Patreon, replying comments, and all the other pieces that go with it. But here's the important part, it doesn't feel like work to me. It's really just a hobby, a creative outlet, and honestly, a way to give back. I retired early and I learned a lot going through that process. So if I can share what I've learned and help someone else prepare better, avoid a mistake, or feel more confident about their own retirement plan, that means a lot to me. When someone leaves a comment saying one of my videos helped them, it's incredibly motivating to me. And honestly, the whole reason I do it, but I'm also careful with it. I could turn this into work. I could push myself to produce more and more content. I could do personalized coaching. I could make it more of a job. But to me, that would defeat the purpose of being retired. My goal in retirement is to do things because I want to do them, not because I feel obligated to do them. And that's the difference. After that, I usually exercise. Most days, I try to do some type of movement, usually cycling or strength training, and that takes about an hour. Health has become one of my biggest retirement projects, especially this year. Since January 1st, I've lost 52 pounds and I feel so much better. My blood pressure is way down. I have more energy. I sleep better. And I think that's one of the things people don't always think about when they're planning for retirement. You don't just want enough to retire, you want enough health and energy to truly enjoy it. Because what's really the point of finally having freedom if you don't have the energy to do anything with it? That's another reason I'm glad I retired when I did. I feel like I'm using my healthiest years differently now, and that matters. After exercise, I'll shower and usually do whatever errand or task fits that day. So I do have structure in retirement, and I think that's important, but it's not stressful structure. For example, Wednesdays are usually my grocery shopping days. Thursdays are when I pay bills, go through my mail, and handle finances. Fridays are usually cleaning the house. And I love doing errands during the week instead of the weekends. Going grocery shopping on a weekday when the store is less crowded is one of those small retirement pleasures that I did not fully appreciate until I had it. When I was working, everything had to get squeezed into evenings or weekends. Now, if something doesn't get done today, I can do it tomorrow or the next day. No big deal. That flexibility is huge and liberating. And I think that's one of the biggest differences between being busy while working and being busy while retired. When I was working, I was busy because other people needed things from me. Now I'm busy because I'm choosing what I want to do, and that feels completely different. I also spend time practicing piano. I had started learning piano when I was still working, but it was pretty much hit or miss because I just didn't have the time or energy to stay consistent. Now I spend time on it daily. And I think that's another important part of retirement. You need things that help you keep growing. Retirement doesn't mean you stop learning. It doesn't mean you stop challenging yourself. Retirement does not mean you just coast and do nothing. That to me is where the boredom creeps in. At least for me, retirement has actually given me more room to grow because I can finally spend time on things I always wanted to do, but never had enough time for. Gardening, piano, content creation, focusing on my health, travel, cooking, family. These are not things I'm doing to just fill empty time. These are things I actually care about. And that's why I'm not bored. My wife and I also cook a lot. We trade off cooking, so I cook about half the time and she cooks the other half. And honestly, we're both really good cooks, so we don't eat out that often because our food is better than what we can get eating out. I also eat much healthier now in retirement. My motto is it's not okay if it can't decay. Meaning if something can sit on a pantry shelf for weeks and still look exactly the same, it's probably not something I'll eat. There are exceptions, of course, like canned vegetables or beans, but overall, I really stay away from overly processed food. And retirement makes that easier because I have more time to plan, cook, and take care of myself. Now, I don't nap. I know a lot of retirees that love naps, but I've never been a napper. Maybe that's my type A personality, but also I'm just not as tired during the day anymore because I'm sleeping well at night and I don't have the same stress I had when I was working. And that's another thing people may not realize. Retirement can give you energy back. Not instantly and not magically, but when you remove a huge source of stress from your life, it changes things. For me, one of my most powerful retirement moments happened after my first vacation as a retired person. Right after I retired in December of 2024, we went through the holidays, which was relaxing in and of itself to really enjoy those. And then at the beginning of January, we took a 7 night Caribbean cruise to celebrate my retirement. And when that vacation was over, for the first time, I did not have that awful feeling of returning to work. I didn't have a pile of emails waiting and having to sort through them to get caught up while I was out. I didn't have meetings to dread. I didn't feel like I was being punished for taking a vacation. The vacation was just over and well, life continued. And you know what? In retirement, I don't even call them vacations anymore because my entire life feels like a vacation. They're just fun getaways. This is incredibly liberating. Another moment happened just a few weeks ago. It was a beautiful spring morning. Wildflowers were blooming along a veloway I bike on when I go cycling in my neighborhood. And it was in the middle of the morning on this day when everything was perfect, the temperature, the sun. And for a moment, I felt like a kid again. It reminded me of being 10 years old, riding bikes with my best friend in the small Wisconsin town near where I grew up. That feeling is hard to put a price on, and I've had several moments like that when I just felt like a kid again. That's what retirement is all about to me. Not sitting on a couch all day, not doing nothing, but getting pieces of yourself back that maybe got buried under decades of work, stress, responsibility, and always having somewhere else to be. Now, I don't want to make retirement sound perfect because it's not. The hardest part for me was not boredom. The hardest part for me was the identity shift. I worked in healthcare IT for almost 30 years. I was at the top of my game, experience wise, salary wise, career wise. I had built a whole identity around that work. And then suddenly that all vanished. Even though I had wanted to retire, even though the math worked, that transition was bigger than I expected. I had spent decades building my career and then I just let it go. I had to grow into retirement. And I think that's something people don't plan for enough. We spend so much time planning the money side. And obviously, the money side matters, but we don't always plan the mental side. Who are you when your job title is gone? What gives you purpose when nobody's assigning you work? What does a good day look like when there's no boss, no calendar full of meetings, no paycheck coming in every 2 weeks? Those are all real questions. And for me, the first months were part of that transition. I had to decompress, I had to adjust, I had to learn what this new phase of life was going to be for me. Another thing that hit me harder than expected was spending from the nest egg, even when the math works. And I would never have retired if the math did not work. It still feels different psychologically when you're no longer saving into the nest egg and you're starting to use it, especially when a large expense comes up. Last summer, our upstairs air conditioner went out, and that kind of expense hits differently when you're retired and not getting a regular paycheck anymore. So that's another misconception. People think retirement planning ends when you retire. It doesn't, it just changes. Before retirement, you're mostly focused on saving and investing. After retirement, you shift into management. Which accounts do you withdraw from? How do you think about taxes? How do you stay tax efficient? How do you handle big expenses? How do you keep enough cash available? How do you keep your plan flexible? So, yes, my daily life is much more peaceful now, but that doesn't mean I stop planning. It just means I'm planning for a different kind of life. And relationships matter too. I'm able to spend more time with my wife, but I also spend more time with extended family now. Most of my family is in Wisconsin, and before retirement, I might go up there once a year. Last year, I went up 3 times. I spend more time with my daughter too, and I've gotten closer to some family members who retired around the same time I did because we're going through a similar life transition. Also, your personality doesn't change in retirement. I'm still an introvert. That didn't change. I've never been someone with a huge friend group, and I don't get my energy from being around a lot of people. But I do think you have to be intentional about relationships in retirement. I organized a quarterly dinner with some former coworkers in my area, and honestly, I don't think that would happen if I didn't make the effort. So that's another thing to think about. Retirement gives you freedom, but it also means you may have to be more intentional. Intentional with your time, your health, relationships, money, and what you're going to do. Because work isn't organizing your life for you anymore. And to me, that's the beauty of it. I don't feel pressure to be productive every day. If I don't want to work on a YouTube video, I don't. If I don't want to practice piano one day, I don't. If I don't finish something today, I can do it tomorrow or the next day. It's no big deal. But I still like creating things, a new video, podcast episode, learning a new piano piece, growing something new in the garden, making a new recipe for dinner, planning travel to places we've never been before, like the 25th anniversary trip I mentioned. Those things make me feel productive, but not in a pressured way at all. They make me feel alive. So if you're worried about being bored in retirement, here's what I'd say. Start thinking now about what your life in retirement is going to look like. What are you going to do? What interests you? What did you always want to learn? What did you used to enjoy before work took over so much of your life? What hobbies could you expand or start? What relationships could you strengthen? What would you do for your health if you had more time and energy? Would you volunteer? Would you work part time doing something you actually enjoy? Would you create something? Would you travel? Would you garden? Would you take classes? Would you join a group? Would you spend more time with family? See, there's so many things a person can do. And I know this may sound a little blunt, but I really do believe boredom in retirement is often a choice. Not always. I understand people have health limitations, family obligations, financial constraints, and different personalities. But for many people, the bigger issue is not that retirement is boring, it's that they haven't given themselves permission to build a life that is actually interesting to them. And that's what I think retirement has taught me. The goal is not to be busy just to be busy. The goal is to fill your days with things that matter to you. For me, that's gardening, health, piano, content creation, travel, cooking, family, simple routines, and the freedom to decide what I want my day to look like. For someone else, it could be different, but you need something and maybe several somethings. Because retirement is not just the absence of work, it is the presence of time. And time needs somewhere meaningful to go. So when people ask me, what do you do all day? My honest answer is, I live. I wake up without an alarm. I drink my coffee slowly. I garden. I exercise. I cook. I create. I travel. I learn. I spend time with people I care about. I run errands when the stores are quiet. I ride my bike in the middle of a spring morning and feel like a kid again. And sometimes I do absolutely nothing productive. And that's okay too. That's part of the gift. So if you are financially ready to retire, but you're still hesitating because you're afraid you'll be bored, I would ask you this. What are you waiting for? Because you know what? Life is just too short. And one more year of work may give you more money, but it also costs you something. It costs you time, it costs you energy, it may cost you sleep, stress, health, and some of your best years. And those years are priceless and you're not going to get them back. I'm not saying everyone should retire early. You need the money side to work, absolutely. You need a plan for health insurance. You need a withdrawal plan. You need to be financially secure enough that retirement can actually feel peaceful. But if the math works and you have enough, and the only thing holding you back is fear of being bored, I would really challenge that fear because I have zero regrets about retiring early. And honestly, I keep myself so busy with things I enjoy that sometimes I wonder how I ever had time to work. So don't just retire from something, retire to something, keep moving, keep learning, keep taking on new challenges, keep growing, because retirement is not the end of your useful life. It may be the first time in decades that your life actually belongs fully to you. And that to me is what retirement actually and should feel like. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Are you worried about being bored in retirement? And if you are, did this video help you? And if you are retired, have you been bored? And if so, what did you do about it? I'd love to hear from you. Also, a quick note, I'd like to invite you to consider joining my Patreon. You can join for free, and I have a lot of free tools for you to use. Things like my ACA Magi Estimator, Retirement Readiness Scorecard, Cash Runway Worksheet, 10 Ways to Lower Your ACA Premiums ebook, treasury bill and CD ladder guides, quarterly retirement review worksheet, and more. I made those resources free because I want to help as many people as possible. And if you'd like to go a step further, the paid Roadmap member tier is now just $5 a month. That gets you early access to new podcast episodes, all of my podcast episodes ad free, and access to the private Roadmap member community discussion space where paid members can ask questions, share experiences, compare notes, and communicate with others who are thinking seriously about retirement. I'll participate regularly, but my goal is to build a real community, not just make it about me. You can join my Patreon for free or become a Roadmap member by using the link in the description or using the QR code on your screen. And go to mikeupland.com for all of my media. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care and make the most of today.